Welcome back, baseball fans, to this 69, 70, 71, 72 Carryover League. We have been looking through a couple boxes, the 1969 and 1970 box, and I'm proud to bring into the equation here the 1971 box. Haven't looked at the box since last year's draft, which happened in March. So we know that there are 64 players currently in the league. Let's look at some of the paperwork that comes with this, first of all. Well, I printed out a copy of the original rosters that came with the 24 teams. Also, there was 48 additional players in the American League, 48 additional players in the National League, that's 96, for a total of 576 players. There doesn't seem to be an addendum at the bottom for any more, so it's 576. Of course, nameless players were used to increase the roster sizes. I also created this printout which computed the E ratings for all the cards. As we know, this original 71 set, the first Super Advanced set, did not have E ratings, and these were computed and added on for all of the baseball teams. And here are the teams, and we seem to have a full assortment of 32 teams after last year's draft. Put them up there like that, I guess. Interestingly, of course, there are no free agents because from the 640 cards, 640 were pulled out from the individual teams. So now it is time to look at each division, and we're going to start with the American League East. Today, the American League East from the 1971 set. We've got Baltimore, Boston, New York, and Toronto. Okay. Now, Baltimore lost Rick Dempsey, Bill Duran, Bob Horner, Eddie Murray, Cal Ripken, Butch Winnegar, Mike Boddicker, and Jay Howe from their team. And looking at the 69 and 70 boxes thus far, we've only determined that Elrod Hendricks will be a player. We haven't really discovered who else will be pitching for them other than maybe Pat Dobson will take Boddicker's number 4 spot in the rotation. And they might want to move Ron Taylor to the Mets. And aside from that, for shortstop, we believe that Bobby Grish's 72 card will be good. And also that there's a Frank Baker who could play shortstop for him in a pinch, in a platoon. And aside from that, let's see what's in store for the Orioles. Let's first look at players. You see, this is the original Super Advanced 71 card set. So we're first looking at players who are currently, the player name, not this card of course, but the player name is currently in the Carryover League. In this case, it's Ron Taylor, Blair, Cuellar, Hall, Johnson, McNally, Frank Robinson, Jim Palmer, Boog Powell, and Brooks Robinson. That's the full 10. 6 of these guys are 69. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 4 70. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the maximum cards you'll see here per team would be 10. Okay. The other 2 players are 71 cards, so you don't see them. Those are Don Buford and Don Eddy. So these guys are available for adoption. And Pat Dobson is on the top of the list, and looky, of course, it's the 4th 20-game winner, Pat Dobson. Now, what's interesting is that Dobson is, believe it or not, slightly better in 72. So they're going to have their choice about which Pat Dobson they'll use to replace Mike Boddicker, who won 20 games. So the Orioles will have another 20-game winner replacing a 20-game winner. This will be one of the 2 players. Next up, Tom Chopay. I don't think so, not enough stick, just a utility player at 257. The third version of Elrod Hendricks, if you don't like the first 2, This Elrod hits 250 with a little less power. The defense, though, for Hendricks, if I go back to the I can compute his throwing arm, since he doesn't have a throwing arm here in the 71 set. Jerry DeVannen is another guy who could play shortstop. And so if I didn't want to get Gritch, I could have Jerry DeVannen against lefties and that Frank Baker against righties is an option, 235. And Clay Dalrymple, a catcher with a really high on-base percentage. Wow. Look out, Elrod Hendricks. This guy's got power and a 360 on-base percentage, maybe? That's a ton of walks. He hit 204, but 16 walks and 50 at-bats. That would be a record. And even against the lefties, you don't necessarily have to take him out of the game. So it could be that they go with Clay Dalrymple instead of Elrod Hendricks. And anyway, the world champs have plenty of options. Next team up is Boston. Boston. Carlton Fisk will be renewed in 72. We'll see that next box. Dave Kingman is an option, but they're going to trade him. They lose Wade Boggs, Tony Armas, Ojeda, Eckersley, Thurmond, and Bob Stanley. We saw a couple pitchers we liked. Nagy was a righty we liked, and a lefty, I forget his name, but there was a lefty starter we liked. So let's see what Boston's got. So, do they have the 10? Moses. Here's Fisk. Look at that. This is not even, he doesn't even qualify for the Rookie of the Year this year because he only had 48 at-bats. But the card is definitely strong enough to get into the league. Easily strong enough. So you could go 71 or 72 Fisk in this case. I'm going to put Fisk over here, though, because we know they got the rights to him. So Moses, Andrews, Sparky Lyle, Petrocelli, Romo, Smith, Scott, Yastrzemski, and Kingman. Turn him over. Boy, Boston, you might want to think long and hard about holding on to Dave Kingman, other than the fact that you don't have a position for him. Because you have Yastrzemski, Canigliaro, Reddy Smith, George Scott. Yeah, so that's the reason why they want to trade this guy to either the Giants or Colorado. There you go. Nice stats. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus 2 more other guys. So all these guys are available. Kingman they'll trade. Fisk, they have their choice. Don't like the spelling though. All right, the Spaceman. He's a relief starter, Bill Lee. He's quite good enough to get into the league to replace the either Bob Stanley in the bullpen or Mark Thurmond in the rotation. Gary Peters, he's getting better and better. His ERA, well, it's actually about the same, 4.37. Roger Moret, here we go. Boy, Boston's rolling and pitching. I really see the Red Sox giving the Orioles a fit in the American League East moving forward. This Moret, 292. So you got him, and you got plenty of pitching options for the Red Sox. Doug Griffin's a second baseman, though we don't need him because we have Andrews to play second base. Bob Montgomery is just a so-so catcher. We don't need him either. Mike Fiore, we saw this card, I think, on Kansas City or some other team, and it was better, so no to him. And Jim Lonborg, 2 more guys. Jim Lonborg, he's good, 4.13 ERA, but Boston has better. And Bobby Bolin, who was in the relief in the bullpen, and, So the Red Sox have plenty of options. This seems to be a 2-horse race between the Orioles and Red Sox. The next team is, of course, the Yankees. They lose some terrific 1984 talent. Cliff Johnson, Don Mattingly, Dave Winfield, Willie Wilson, Juan Samuel, plus Frank Tanana, and the back of the bullpen, Righetti and Gossage. That's a lot of talent to lose, not to mention that for the Yankees, they didn't have much in their farm system. They have McAndrew, Aker, They have a middle infield, Clark and Michael, Fritz Peterson, Stottlemyre, Gibbs, McDaniel, Munson, and White. This should be the full 10, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, those 10 guys plus Bobby Mercer and Greg Nettles. So we know Danny Cater is going to play first base, and the Yankees lose Cliff Johnson and Don Mattingly at first base and DH, and a couple outfielders in the offense. Here's Ron Blomberg. We know he becomes American League's first designated hitter in a few years, but he's a .322 hitter, and he does not have he's a 3 at first base, but oh, this is a heck of a card to have. So between him and Danny Cater, that's 2 300 hitters. Cater hit 300, and Bloomberg gets 322. We know we lose 2 340 hitters. We lose 343 hitting Mattingly and 340 hitting Winfield. So that's pretty close. I mean, you're not going to find anybody better than those two guys. So Bloomberg has some outfield he can play. So it seems that Bloomberg will be the first option in the draft. Here's Jerry Kenney. And of all the Jerry Kennys, this is the best one. It's about 268, 262. No homers. They already have Nettles at third base, though, so they might want to just let him go. Stan Bonson. You could take Stan Bonson here with a 3.35 ERA, put him in the rotation, and then go with 2 lefty relievers. Here's Danny Cater, not quite as good. 276, which is probably why they sent him to Boston for Sparky Lyle. So the other Cater will be in the league along with this Bloomberg. Mike Kekich. Again, wanting this guy to put a decent year together. 408 in 170 innings. This is probably the best Kekich you're going to find. And if you don't start him, put him in the bullpen as a lefty gets lefties out as a long man. You can have a short lefty and a long lefty in the bullpen and put Bonson in the rotation. Gary Wasilewski, a righty reliever, gets righties out. Excellent. Jim Harden, no, he's past his prime. But again, you got to have guys ready for the next 2 drafts. So Bloomberg, Bonson, Kekich, Wasilewski are all available for this draft plus next year's draft. And the final team, the Blue Jays, of course, we know their plight. They were putting together a powerhouse in the 80s when I turned the league upside down, and they lose tremendous players. George Bell, Juan Beniquez, Tony Fernandez, Vance Law, Lloyd Mosby, Rance Mullinax, Dave Stieb, and they bring back Doyle Alexander. In addition to that, they have Grisenda. Now, what an expansion team like this can do is maybe they should simply start improving the guys they currently have. Joe Grisenda is currently on the team, but this card is much better than the lefty setup guy, Joe Grisenda. $1.93 ERA. So you need to get value on this expansion team ASAP, even if it means improving a player. When you improve a player, it means you didn't plug a hole in your roster, and then when the draft ends, teams will have 20-man rosters. Toronto will have a 19-man roster, and then they'll have to go into the free agents, the leftovers, and find that 20th roster spot. That's still not a bad way to go if it means getting a really quality pitcher on a bad team. Gary Gentry, he rotates here. 203, another possible improvement. Klimkowski, another improvement. These are all pitchers currently on the team. They have the rights to Doyle Alexander, so I'm going to put him on the other side. So let me make sure I got this right. There we go. So Grisenda, Gentry, and Klimkowski are to be improved potentially, and these guys are available. Doyle Alexander, not this one, but the 72 Doyle Alexander is better. This is 382, but you can do better. Duffy Dyer, do they need a catcher? Not one that's not that good. Duffy Dyer is pretty mediocre there, 231. Tom Murphy, seen him before. He's still not that great. 378 and 243 innings. He could take Dave Steep's roster spot. And Vince Colbert, 397. Tom Phoebus, we saw him before, and he was better before. So it's pretty interesting here. I really like this Grisenda, though. I think you have to do that. Gentry and Klimkowski aren't quite that substantially better to warrant improving them. Grisenda is, particularly a lefty setup guy. He can help the Blue Jays win a few games. So, you know, Toronto is simply going to be up against it. Their role is to try and creep closer to 500 if possible in a devastating division. They're set up for failure, and it really is. You just need a remarkable bit of luck for them to rally and get a wild card. So there you go. That's your American League East, and we'll see you again next time.